July 1st is not what you think. Archangel Michael knows what's coming, and you're not ready. He's been whispering to you for days, but you keep ignoring the signs. Don't skip this one. Open now. Something sacred is already shifting. The hourglass of divine time has turned, and the grains are falling faster than your thoughts can catch. July 1st is not just a date on your calendar. It is a divine intersection, a holy collision between your past missteps and your future redemption. Archangel Michael has been trying to tell you this, but you've drowned his warnings in noise. This isn't paranoia. This is preparation. And now, you're being summoned, not invited, not gently called, but summoned to attention. Every time your heart raced for no reason, every time the clock flashed 1:11, 4:44, or some mysterious number, every moment you felt a strange stillness in the room when no one was around. Those were not coincidences. They were whispers. Whispers wrapped in divine frequency. Whispers from Michael himself, sent through portals of time and spirit. And yet you brushed them off, called them nothing, scrolled past them. You're not alone in this ignorance, but if you don't awaken now, you will be alone in the consequences. Michael isn't just the warrior of heaven. He is the defender of truth. And the truth is, the enemy creeping into your life isn't a stranger, it's a pattern. A generational pattern. They're a beating trap. One you keep falling into. And July 1st, that's the day it loops again unless you break it. You have 6 days or less. Some of you won't even get that far if you keep ignoring the signals coming through dreams, delays, and disruptions. They are not accidents. They are coded interventions. Right now, you are being protected from something you haven't seen yet, because Michael hath been fighting it in secret for you. But he is growing weary, not from battle, but from your disbelief. His sword is sharp. His wings are ready. But you must stand in agreement with what's been divinely arranged. That's why you're reading this now. This is not a scroll by moment. This is a scroll-stopping revelation. One that divides those who listen from those who suffer. He's whispering louder now. Not because you're special, but because time is special. Because what's coming isn't just an event, it's an exposure. July 1st will pull back the veil on someone, something, or some secret that has been festering for far too long. Your spirit knows exactly what I'm referring to. You had dreams of it. You've overheard conversations about it. But fear made you stay quiet. July 1st won't let you be quiet anymore. Understand this. Heaven's calendar doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about your calling. And you're not ready, not because you lack ability, but because you lack attention. You haven't been paying attention to the signs. And signs are not decorations, they are directions. If you keep ignoring them, you will crash. And no one will say they didn't try to warn you. Because Michael did. Again. And again. And again. So what happens next depends on what you choose now. Read every word slowly. Don't skim. Don't scan. Let it strike. Let it echo in your bones. Because what you're about to hear will not only prepare you, it may just save you. This is your first and last invitation to spiritual intelligence. July 1st is not what you think, but heaven knows. And now, so do you. You think it began recently, but the truth is, this started long before now. The signs have always surrounded you, subtle at first, then louder, sharper, urgent. But you dismissed them as stress, mood swings, or your imagination. You blamed tiredness. You blamed the world. You blamed God for being quiet. But it wasn't God who was silent. It was you who muted him. July 1st isn't approaching. It's arriving. With it comes a spiritual flood, and if you are unanchored, you will drift into the very chaos Michael had been shielding you from. Every delay you faced this month wasn't punishment, it was protection. A friend who subtly grew distant. It was no accident. The opportunity that slipped through your fingers. That was divine redirection. But because you expected clarity wrapped in comfort, you labeled these things as setbacks. You forgot that heaven doesn't answer your prayers in soft whispers. It often responds with detours, delays, and divine disconnections. And Archangel Michael, he's the hand behind every door that didn't open because the root behind it was poisoned. But you've been ignoring that. You've been rushing. You've been hoping July 1st will bring promotion, but it's bringing exposure. Exposure of a lie. Exposure of a traitor. Exposure of a habit you've been nurturing in secret. This is not a prophetic cliché. This is not an emotional exaggeration. This is a divine emergency. The time for soft-spoken affirmations is over. Michael isn't whispering because he's unsure. He's whispering because heaven always speaks in warning before it roars in judgment. And yet, you still hesitate. You think maybe this message is for someone else. But deep down, you know it's for you. You know the name. You know the habit. You know the hidden inbox thread. The browser history. The unspoken resentment. The emotional compromise. You know. July 1st isn't the day everything goes wrong. It's the day everything hidden comes to light. And if you are not prepared, that exposure will devastate you rather than liberate you. Michael is not here to scare you. He is here to steal you. There is a reason you've been feeling that strange restlessness lately. That tightness in your chest. That feeling of unfinished business. Those are not medical symptoms. They are spiritual signals. Heaven is pushing on your spirit because your timeline is being disrupted for your protection. And yet you resist. You scroll. You watch it. You laugh. You procrastinate. You've traded spiritual discipline for digital distraction. Michael's whispers can't compete with the noise you choose to drown in. And let me tell you, this is no longer about feeling ready. This is about being alert. God does not send warnings to the arrogant. He sends them to the call. You've been called. That's why you're still reading. That's why your hands are trembling. That's why your soul is pacing, even if your body is still. Don't confuse the delay in consequence with the absence of consequence. What's been following you quietly will confront you loudly if you don't act now. Do you know what Archangel Michael is fighting off for you right now? You don't. And you weren't meant to. Because if you saw the spiritual attacks headed toward you, the betrayal you narrowly avoided, the loss that almost happened, the trap that was disguised as a blessing, you'd collapse. That's why he's fighting while whispering. He needs you to prepare, not panic. Because on July 1st, the shield may drop if you continue walking into danger out of ignorance. Heaven gives signs in repetition. And repetition is mercy. How many more times must you hear the same name? See the same number? Feel the same nudge? How many dreams must wake you in sweat before you finally say, I'm listening? This isn't about intuition. It's about divine revelation. And Michael only whispers to those who are destined to rise. But rising isn't automatic. It's intentional. It requires obedience before understanding. So hear this clearly. You are in a spiritual countdown. Not to the end, but to the shift. If you waste this moment, July 1st will come like a sword instead of a signal. And if it cuts, it won't be to hurt you. It will be to separate you from what you refuse to let go of. Michael does not strike without purpose. He removes what you can't detach from. That's why he's whispering, because he wants you to let go before heaven is forced to rip it away. Type I'm rising to get blessing 5678. What's coming isn't just sudden. It's been circling. The truth is, this moment was written in the patterns of your past. July 1st is simply where those patterns converge. The people who left you, the doors that closed, the chaos that erupted last year around this same time. It wasn't coincidence. It was a rehearsal. Heaven had been showing you the blueprint of your sabotage for years, but you kept walking into the same room expecting a different result. You didn't fail because you were weak. You failed because you were distracted. Michael has been whispering into that pattern. Not to shame you, but to shake you. Because the most dangerous enemy is not the loud one. It's the familiar one. The relationship you keep forgiving even though it drains your spirit. The friend whose laughter hides silent jealousy. The job you begged for that now feels like a cage. You keep running back to what God rescued you from. You keep patching what heaven is trying to permanently sever. And now, on July 1st, heaven will stop asking. That's why the tension has grown. That's why things feel off. It's the divine resistance trying to reroute you. But if you keep blaming the devil for what is actually God's hand, then you'll keep rebuking your own rescue. Not every closed door is an attack. Some of them are exits. Michael isn't fighting your future, he's fighting your refusal to grow into it. You say you want change, but you still cling to what you know. Familiarity has become your idol, and idols always require a sacrifice. What has it cost you so far? Peace, Zeb, confidence, clarity. You've traded those things for the illusion of stability. But July 1st isn't offering illusions, it's forcing truth. And the truth is, this pattern will destroy you if you don't break it. This isn't a vague prophecy. This is a tailored instruction. Look back at what keeps repeating. The faces may change, the names may differ, but the lesson has stayed the same. You were not made to settle where you stopped. You stopped growing. That's why you've been uncomfortable. Not because life is cruel, but because your spirit is suffocating. You're trying to breathe in an environment that no longer fits your calling. That's why July 1st had to be chosen. Not to punish you, but to pull you. Pull you out of the loop. Out of the trauma. Out of the scarcity. Out of the cycles that camouflage themselves as comfort. Because the longer you stay in what's familiar, the further you get from what's promise. And still, you hesitate. You want God to confirm it again. You want another sign, another message, another moment. But what more do you need? The fact that your eyes landed on these words is your confirmation. The fact that your spirit is restless right now is your signal. Don't delay transformation waiting for a gentler voice. Michael whispers, but he also warns. And when he warns, it's never vague. This is a countdown. One that will either birth your breakthrough or bury your potential. You already know what needs to go. You know who needs to be cut off. You know what addiction is stealing your clarity. You know what habit keeps dragging you back to square one. This is not the time to explain it. This is the time to end it. Heaven doesn't want your excuses, it wants your execution. Not of people above patterns. If you don't destroy the cycle will destroy your destiny. And Michael won't interfere if you willingly stay in disobedience. Let's be real, July 1st isn't the enemy. It's the mirror. It won't bring anything you haven't already allowed, but it will magnify what's been hiding. And in that magnification, some of you will finally see the truth, but others will still lie to themselves. And that self-deception, that's the most dangerous part of all, because it sounds like peace, but it's really just pride. And pride always crashes before breakthrough. That's why you're being warned now, because you still have time to choose what shows up on July 1st, exposure or elevation. You don't get both. Heaven is merciful, but it's not passive. And if you keep delaying the inner work, Michael will stop whispering and start withdrawing. He only defends what aligns with divine purpose, not what clings to old pain. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I'm chosen to get the blessing 7,777. There's someone you've been trusting who shouldn't still have access to your heart. July 1st will tear away the mask they've been wearing. This is the exposure Michael has been trying to prepare you for. It won't come through loud confrontation. It will come through a moment so clear it shakes your foundation. It might be a text, a look, a sudden confession, a slip of the tongue, or worse, silence when they should have defended you. That's when you'll know. That's when it will all make sense. Why you felt strange, why the air felt heavier, why Michael wouldn't stop whispering. Heaven has been watching this betrayal unfold in real time. You've been watched. You've been studied. The enemy didn't send a stranger to destroy you. He sent someone you love. Someone close enough to know where you're vulnerable. This isn't about paranoia. It's about discernment. You confused being spiritual with being silent. But silence is not always holy. Sometimes it's dangerous. You've allowed people to keep proximity they no longer deserve. And because of that, their intentions have matured into access points for spiritual attack. Michael is whispering because what's hidden must be revealed, but he's giving you the chance to move before heaven exposes it publicly. That's mercy. That's your ace. Don't squander it. You felt the shift months ago. Conversations got colder. Energy became strange. They stopped celebrating your wins. They began disappearing in your valleys. You excuse it as life, stress, or change. But no, it was decay. And decay spreads. July 1st will not allow you to keep covering what's already corroding your spirit. You must understand, exposure isn't punishment. It's purification. What's being revealed is what you refused to release. You kept them close because of history, because of guilt, because of your fear of starting over. But heaven doesn't honor nostalgia. He honors obedience. Michael is not interested in how long someone's been around. He's interested in whether they're still aligned. And if they're not, his sword will come swiftly. Not to destroy them, but to disconnect you before their intentions take root. You cannot rise while tethered to betrayal. That's why you've been stuck. That's why prayers feel delayed. That's why your clarity is clouded. Your elevation has been compromised by contamination. You've let someone sit at your table who poisoned the bread. But instead of throwing out the bread, You kept feeding it to yourself, hoping the flavor would change. It won't. What's spoiled cannot be salvaged. What's been corrupted must be cut. And the worst part, you already knew. You had dreams. You had instincts. You had confirmations. But you kept giving second chances to someone who took advantage of the first. That's not compassion. It's compromise. July 1st is bringing the final nudge. The kind you cannot unsee, cannot unfeel, cannot ignore. This is the day the mask slips off. This is the day Michael stops blocking the blow and lets it land so you finally learn. It may hurt. It may shock you. But it will free you. Exposure is never comfortable. But it is necessary. You are being called to rise, but elevation costs connection. Not everyone can go with you. Not everyone wants you to win. And you've been pouring into someone who's been poking holes in your peace behind closed doors. Stop calling it loyalty. Start calling it what it is, self-sabotage disguised as love. And Michael is done watching it quietly. Heaven has already warned you. The clock has been ticking. The blessing has been delayed because the betrayer is still on your team. You don't take poison into battle. You don't carry compromise into purpose. You don't pray for open doors while holding the hand of the one who's been closing them behind your back. This is your turning point. July 1st will mark your timeline, either as the moment you obeyed, or the day you delayed one time too many. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. You are spiritually correct. A discomfort you feel around them. That suspicion that keeps returning. It's divine intelligence. Trust it. Honor it. You don't need a scandal to separate. You only need obedience. If Michael is warning you, believe him. He's not here to play games. He's here to break chains. Type I am protected to get the blessing 2121. Separation is painful when you're still holding on with both hands. But July 1st is not asking for your comfort. It's demanding your release. You've prayed for clarity, begged for breakthrough, asked for peace. But none of those can survive in contaminated spaces. Archangel Michael's sword is not drawn to harm, but to cut. Not recklessly, but precisely. He knows exactly where the soul tie lies. He knows exactly what is weakening your voice, draining your discernment, and delaying your destiny. He's ready to sever it. But the question remains, are you willing to let it go? This is where many fall. They confuse loyalty with bondage. They stay longer than they should, hoping the fruit will change on a tree that's been dead for seasons. God doesn't tell you to leave because He wants you lonely. He tells you to leave because staying longer will cost you more than walking away ever would. Michael whispers, but he cuts clean. And some connections require a sharp break, not a soft excuse. You've tried kindness. You've tried patience. Now it's time for courage. Courage isn't loud. It's often silent. It looks like blocking a number. It looks like walking out mid-conversation. It looks like deleting a message you shouldn't have opened. It looks like trusting your spirit even when your heart still aches. Separation isn't the absence of love. It's the enforcement of purpose. And your purpose has grown too big for the box someone keeps trying to lock you in. July 1st is the divine moment when heaven says, enough. Not out of anger, but out of fierce protection. You've been wandering in emotional fog, doubting yourself, questioning whether you're hearing God clearly. That confusion. It's not from heaven. It's the consequence of divided loyalty. You cannot walk with angels while dining with demons. And some demons wear smiles. Some sit in your living room. Some sleep in your bed. Some speak scripture fluently, but carry poison in every compliment. Michael sees it, and on July 1st, he will not allow you to be bound by it any longer. But don't expect the separation to be soft. It may be abrupt. It may be painful. It may come through an argument, a revelation, or a silence that speaks louder than words. But however it comes, don't resist it. Because that severing is actually saving. That closing is actually clearing the path. God is not removing people because you're unworthy. He's doing it because you're too valuable to remain connected to sabotage. Not all wounds come from enemies, and some come from companions. You need to understand the role of Michael here. He is not just your protector. He is heaven's enforcer. He doesn't just keep evil out. He forces you to confront what you've allowed to stay too long. You've called it love. Heaven calls it delay. You've called it testing. Heaven calls it tolerating the toxin. July 1st is your moment of clarity. You will either align with the sword or feel the consequences of ignoring it. Let this be the final confirmation you need. You weren't wrong to feel distant. You weren't crazy for withdrawing. You weren't being rude when you pulled away. Your spirit recognized the shift before your mind could explain it. That's not rebellion. That's divine intelligence. Michael whispered it over and over, in dreams, in instincts, in subtle changes. But now, the whisper is becoming a strike, and it won't be gentle because delay has made the poison spread. You won't lose peace by letting go. You'll lose pain. You will lose the future by walking away. You'll finally step into it. The enemy has been banking on your emotional attachment, hoping your soul would override your spirit. But Michael is stronger than your emotions. He has stood guard long enough. Now, he's drawing the line. Your prayers have been heard, but the answer comes with a cost. And that cost is separation from anything unassigned to your purpose. Don't ask heaven for favor while cuddling with what curses you. Don't ask for blessing while babysitting betrayal. The sword is here, not to destroy but to divide. And July 1st is the day heaven marks the separation between what was and what must be. If you obey, you'll rise. If you cling, you'll break. And Michael will not apologize for protecting the promise over your life. Type I am ready to get blessing 8888. Let's speak plainly now. Obedience won't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like grief. Letting go doesn't always come with immediate peace. In fact, the first wave is often pain. You'll question yourself. You'll wrestle with guilt. You'll miss the person, the routine, the version of yourself that stayed too long. And yet, heaven does not wait for your feelings to catch up before it commands a shift. Archangel Michael isn't cutting ties to hurt you. He's doing it to create room for what's rightfully yours. You prayed for alignment, didn't you? Then expect a divine rearrangement. Not just in your relationships, but in your mind, in your priorities, in your appetite for truth. What used to comfort you will now irritate you. What used to satisfy you will now leave you empty. That's what obedience does. It recalibrates your soul. July 1st is that recalibration. And the grief you feel, it's not weakness. It's proof you're shedding something that became part of your identity, but not part of your purpose. Understand this clearly. God never asks you to release what He intends to restore. If He's asking you to let go, it's because something better is on the way, or what you're clinging to has already expired. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Michael's sword doesn't just separate. It aligns. It clears the clutter so heaven can deliver what you've been fasting and crying for. But the delay in manifestation has always been linked to your delay in obedience. Yes, it feels like loss. Yes, your flesh is uncomfortable. But your spirit knows. It knows something sacred is shifting. That ache in your chest, that sudden urge to isolate, that feeling of I don't fit here anymore. Those aren't random emotions, they are spiritual contractions. July 1st will birth something new through you, but you must walk through the labor of letting go first. Don't numb it. Don't rush it. Don't try to avoid the morning. Healing requires truth, and truth demands confrontation. The days leading up to July 1st may be filled with tension. You'll be tempted to go back, to make that call, to explain yourself one last time. Don't. The door is closing for a reason. Not because you're bitter, but because heaven is building. And you cannot build your next chapter on a foundation that was always cracking. Every time you return to what God called you out of, you delay your own prophecy. Michael is here to stop that cycle permanently. The loneliness you fear is actually sacred space. And quiet. It's not abandonment. It's alignment. Heaven often gets silent before it shifts you. Why? Because the stillness allows your spirit to echo with what Michael has been saying all along. You're about to feel different. Not broken, clear. Not hopeless, disentangle. And clarity, while painful, is the first step toward power. The power to choose obedience even when it costs you comfort. Don't mistake pruning for punishment. Trees don't mourn the branches they lose. They grow taller because of it. Likewise, you are being cut so you can carry more. You can't carry both divine purpose and deadweight. You must choose. And July 1st, that's the point of decision. Michael isn't whispering just to alert you. He's whispering to see if you're listening. This is your moment. This is the line. Once you step over, everything changes. Not instantly, but inevitably. This isn't about being strong. It's about being surrendered. Heaven doesn't need your strength. It needs your agreement. You don't have to know the whole plan. You just need to obey the next instruction. And that instruction is simple. Release. Release the person. Release the version of you that accepted less. Release the guilt. Release the timeline. Heaven will honor what you lay down, but it cannot reward what you keep hiding behind excuses and fear. Michael is still whispering, but his sword is raised, and heaven is watching. Will you let go before July 1st arrives, or will you cling until it's ripped from your hands? One leads to peace, the other to pain. Either way, the shift is coming. You choose whether it lifts you or breaks you. Type I am letting go to get blessing 1414. You've heard the whispers. You've seen the signs. You felt the pressure in your spirit. Still you hesitate. Still, you try to rationalize the connection, the pattern, the compromise. But now we must talk plainly. If you cross into July 1st still holding what Michael told you to release, the consequences will no longer be spiritual. They will become visible. The delay you thought you could manage will become a wall. The heartbreak you thought you could survive will turn into a storm. You are not being punished, you are being warned. Warnings are acts of mercy. They are proof that heaven still believes you will choose obedience. But there comes a moment when mercy gives way to motion, when what was internal becomes external. And July 1st is that moment. The sword is not a metaphor anymore. It is movement. It is divine separation in real time. Those who ignored the whisper will watch doors close they were never meant to walk through because of their disobedience. Don't let that be your story. You've come too far, cried too long, and fasted too earnestly to fall here. Let me ask you, how many times has your spirit been stirred and you still went back? How many times have you deleted the number only to memorize it again? How often have you felt that ache, that certainty that this is not right, only to label it confusion or fear? That was Michael. That was your discernment trying to rise above your emotion. That was divine clarity confronting your comfortable dysfunction. And now, heaven is saying, enough. Not out of cruelty, but out of love. You've prayed for the blessing, but the blessing is on the other side of the break. And that break is not just with people, it's with patterns. Emotional patterns, mental patterns, spiritual compromise. Michael cannot lead you into the next level of divine alignment while you still have your hands wrapped around the old scaffolding. You keep trying to build something sacred on something unstable, and heaven won't bless a structure that will collapse under your calling. Yes, the grief is real. Yes, the fear is loud. But the consequences of staying are louder. You may not see them today, but they are coming. Because anything you keep after it has expired will eventually rot. It will infect your joy. It will cloud your wisdom. It will even dim your favor. And the tragedy is not just in what you lose, but in what you miss. Because what you're holding onto is not just delaying you, it's blocking you. Your next is ready, but it cannot enter a room already full. You must create the vacancy. You must make the cut. You must trust that obedience may hurt, but it always heals. It breaks what needed to be broken so that what's real can finally grow. You've been nurturing weeds because they came wrapped in memories. You've been watering plants that bear no fruit just because you planted them. But July 1st is not the time to romanticize what no longer fits. It's the time to release what has been weighing down your wings. This is where most people turn back. When the whisper turns into a demand. When comfort gives way to confrontation. But you are not most people. You are marked. That's why the whisper won't leave you alone. That's why you can't scroll past this message. That's why your dreams have become more vivid, your peace more fragile, your spirit more sensitive. You are in divine training. And July 1st is not your finish line. It's your field test. If you obey, heaven will honor your sacrifice with acceleration. If you delay, you'll enter a cycle that gets harder to break. Michael doesn't warn repeatedly for entertainment. He does it because your calling is urgent. And anything standing in the way of that, anyone, anything, any belief, will be removed. By your hand or by heaven's. The sword has never been optional. He only gives you the first choice of where it falls. So, I ask you once more, will you cling to what is breaking you, or will you rise into what heaven has been building? July 1st will not slow down. The moment is approaching. And your obedience will be the line that defines the rest of this year. Choose it. Even if it hurts. Even if it's lonely. Because what's ahead is holy, and holiness cannot be mixed with what you refuse to surrender. Type I am crossing over to get blessing 1717. Now that you've seen what disobedience can cost, let's shift our gaze to what obedience can unlock. July 1st is not just a warning, it's a gateway. For those who obey, it becomes a passage into the divine unknown where heaven begins to rearrange everything you once thought was fixed. You've been asking for answers, signs, and breakthroughs, but you didn't realize the door was blocked by your refusal to let go. The moment you truly release what Michael instructed, you will feel it, the weight that lifts, the room that clears, the clarity that returns. This isn't just emotional. It's prophetic. Heaven cannot build on a cluttered foundation, and obedience is the great reset. It clears the space. It reclaims your time. It restores your focus. You'll begin to notice that the same things which once drained you now repel you. What once confused you becomes laughably clear. What once paralyzed you now loses its grip entirely. Obedience isn't about the rules, it's about the release. And with release comes reward. Not always immediately, but always inevitably. July 1st marks a shift in how your spirit processes movement. You won't just go with the flow, you'll flow with divine rhythm. That rhythm doesn't match culture. It doesn't follow feelings. It follows favor. Heaven's rhythm responds to alignment, not noise. When you obey, even silently, you come into alignment. And the moment you do, doors begin to swing open that were always meant for you but couldn't activate because the access code was obedience. Think about this. What if the reason things have felt stagnant is because the version of you trying to receive wasn't the version assigned to the blessing? Obedience upgrades your identity. It refines your discernment. It calibrates your posture. You start walking differently, speaking differently, thinking differently. Not because you're pretending, but because your spirit is finally unburdened. Unburdening is what July 1st wants to birth. But it cannot happen while you're still tied to yesterday. Michael is not just cutting people. He's cutting timelines. Some of you have been stuck in loops, reliving the same 6 months for the past 6 years. Not because you're lazy, not because you're cursed, but because you've refused the call to evolve. And evolution requires excavation. You cannot grow roots where the soil is poisoned. Obedience removes what contaminates. It purifies your environment. And what's purified becomes prepared. Prepared for what? For acceleration. The kind of favor that doesn't make sense to others. The kind of alignment where the job, the person, the clarity, the opportunity all converge at once, not because you chased it, but because you made room. Obedience is heaven's language for trust, and trust unlocks overflow. Not just enough to get by, but more than enough, spiritually, emotionally, and yes, even materially. You were never meant to beg for breakthrough. You were meant to host it. But breakthrough can't reside where disobedience reigns. That's why so many have glimpses of destiny but never walk in it. They treat obedience as optional. You won't. Not after this. Because now you see the truth. Obedience is not loss. It is leverage. It reclaims your authority. It restores your memory. It reminds you that you are not forgotten. You are not unseen. You are simply being positioned. Every no you've received was tied to a future yes that obedience is now making possible. It's no coincidence you're still here, reading this, with your chest tight and your spirit stirred. You are part of the remnant. Those few who will choose surrender over delay, clarity over confusion, holiness over compromise. And for you, July 1st will be marked in heaven's record as the day your obedience caught up with your prayers. The day your posture matched your prophecy. The day your silence turned into power. The day Michael smiled, not because you were perfect, but because you finally said yes. You're almost there. Don't backtrack now. Every temptation to reconnect, to explain, to justify, resist it. Keep walking. Don't look back. There is nothing behind you worth the cost of what's ahead. Keep your eyes forward. Let your spirit stay clear. And trust that what heaven brings next will prove why the separation was absolutely necessary. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type "I'm aligned" to get blessing 5656. When obedience aligns with divine timing, clarity returns like a flood. What once confused you no longer even catches your attention. That's the power of release. That's the miracle of spiritual alignment. And after July 1st, if you obey, this is what will mark your life. Undeniable clarity. Not just about others, but about yourself. Who you are. What you carry. Why you've been fought so hard. Why the separation had to be swift. Why Michael wouldn't stop whispering. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned for power. Clarity isn't just mental, it's spiritual power taking form. You begin to hear things you missed before. You recognize patterns before they begin. You walk into rooms and know who's for you and who's not, without a word being spoken. It's what obedience grants. It doesn't make life easier. It makes you sharper. It turns you from a wandering soul into a focused weapon of destiny. Michael doesn't just want you protected, he wants you empowered. July 1st is when heaven stops shielding and starts shaping. You'll start remembering parts of you that you forgot. The boldness, the creativity, the joy, the spiritual instincts that used to guide you before you silenced them for someone else's comfort. Those parts were never lost. They were buried under people-pleasing, fear, disobedience, and delay. But when the sword of separation finally does its full work, your identity begins to emerge again. Not the version others tolerated, the version heaven designed. And that version is dangerous to darkness. What you must realize now is that your life wasn't just delayed by external forces. It was dulled by your disconnection from self. When you entertain what heaven has not sanctioned, you lose track of who you are. You begin shrinking in places where you're supposed to roar. You forget how to pray with fire. You forget how to move with confidence. But clarity is the comeback. And clarity is what July 1st is ushering in for every obedient soul. That comeback isn't small, it's strategic. Things will begin aligning without you forcing them. Emails, opportunities, encounters, dreams, visions, resources. You won't chase them. They will locate you. Because heaven rushes to fill every space you finally clear. The problem wasn't God's silence. It was your saturation. You were too full of everything else. Now that obedience has emptied the counterfeit, the authentic begins to flow. What flows now will flood if you continue to surrender. But this time, don't just receive the clarity, protect it. Because what's coming next will test your new posture. Old voices may return. Familiar spirits may knock. Invitations to old habits will try to slide back into your schedule. Not because they're stronger, but because your elevation exposed you. And now you must become your own gatekeeper. Michael's sword did the initial work. Now it's your responsibility to guard the gate. Don't let what you were delivered from become what you entertain again. You'll need boundaries. Not walls of fear, but standards of honor. You'll speak less and observe more. You'll stop explaining and start executing. You'll stop doubting and start discerning. This is the you that was always meant to emerge. This is the you that will walk through July 1st and never look back. And it all comes, not because you figured everything out, but because you finally obeyed without needing full understanding. That is what breaks cycles. That is what triggers supernatural acceleration. Heaven is not finished. This is only the beginning of the release. Your authority is returning. Your vision is increasing. Your discernment is deepening. Your spirit is awakening. You've crossed into a territory that requires discipline, but also delivers dominion. And with dominion comes responsibility. You're no longer allowed to play small. Michael didn't cut all that dead weight for you to go back to shrinking. You've been unshackled. And now you must walk in the boldness that freedom requires. Don't just celebrate the shift, steward it. Protect your morning routine. Strengthen your prayer life. Listen more than you speak. Fast when your spirit feels foggy. Pay attention to sudden delays. They are not inconveniences. They are instructions. Everything around you is now speaking in divine code. Heaven is talking, and Michael is still near, not whispering anymore, but watching. And if you remain aligned, he'll stay stationed at your side. Type I am walking in power to get blessing 3636. Now that you've obeyed, now that you've let go, something powerful is happening beneath the surface. July 1st was never just about survival. It was about separation for purpose. You didn't just cross into a new season. You were set apart. Heaven has placed a seal on you. And when heaven sets you apart, it shifts how the world interacts with you. You will feel the change in your atmosphere, in your relationships, in your inner voice. You are no longer hidden. You are marked for divine assignment. You'll begin to feel uncomfortable in places you once enjoyed. Conversations that used to energize you will now feel off. People who once felt safe will now feel distant. This is not rejection. It's redirection. You are being recalibrated to divine frequency. And Michael, who once whispered to protect you, is now watching to promote you. This next level requires you to think differently, speak carefully, and move with strategic authority. You are not being isolated. You are being positioned. Positioned for what? For visibility without compromise. For influence without idolization. For impact without dilution. The reason July 1st demanded so much obedience is because what's ahead will demand even more purity. This is not a season for fitting in. It's a season of standing out. You are no longer walking among the crowd. You are called to rise above it. You've been entrusted with sight, discernment, and sensitivity for a reason. You are a watcher, a warrior, and a witness. And that's why some connections had to end. That's why heaven pushed you to cut what felt familiar. Familiarity is the enemy of assignment. What coddled you could never carry you. What distracted you could never deliver you. You are walking in something new now, something sacred. Don't try to blend in where heaven has marked you to be set apart. Your silence will speak. Your presence will shift rooms. Not because of ego, but because of what you carry. Beware. Your clarity will now offend confusion. Your boundaries will threaten manipulation. Your peace will disturb chaos. Some will say you've changed, and they'll be right. But don't shrink. Don't explain. You didn't survive July 1st to walk backwards into comfort. You obeyed heaven when it hurt. Now it's time to protect what that obedience unlocked. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You're not hurt, you're holy. And holiness must be guarded. The days ahead may not be easy, but they will be precise. You'll be pulled toward new assignments. You'll be called to release words in moments of divine tension. You'll carry wisdom into rooms where your voice will be needed, not loud but clear. That's the role of those who pass through the fire and come out sharpened. You are not just a survivor, you are a signal. What you carry is not just for you, it's a sign to others of what happens when someone truly obeys. Don't expect applause. Expect alignment. God is not calling you to popularity. He's calling you to purity with power. You are part of the remnant now. The ones who walk softly but carry spiritual thunder. The ones who know when to move, when to stay silent, and when to strike with prayer. Michael will no longer whisper. He will walk with you. He stands now as witness, not to protect from what's past, but to guide you through what's next. Remember this, separation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Everything you lost was clearing the ground for what you're now about to carry. You had to be stripped to be trusted. You had to be emptied to be filled. And now, the filling begins. Wisdom, authority, discernment, favor. Not all at once, but all in rhythm. Stay surrendered. Stay watchful. Stay low before God, and high in discernment before man. You've been marked. You've been molded. You've been moved into position. This next chapter will require striving. It will require stewardship. And what heaven just entrusted you with on July 1st is rare. Don't waste it. Don't dilute it. Walk in it boldly. You didn't come this far to fall back. You are the living proof that obedience writes destinies. Type I am set apart to get blessing 3737. Now that you've stepped into your role as a watchman, you'll begin to notice something sacred. The language of your spirit has changed. What once stirred anxiety now activates discernment. What used to drain you now sharpens you. You're no longer praying from desperation. You're praying from dominion. July 1st did not just open a door for you. It changed your vocabulary. You don't speak from fear anymore. You declare from authority. And heaven listens differently when the one praying has passed the test of obedience. Your senses are keener now. You can feel when someone's words don't match their spirit. You can hear what isn't being said. You can see beyond the surface. This is not a burden, it's a mantle. Because clarity is responsibility. And with this new responsibility comes a call to maturity. Not the kind that's forced by pain, but the kind that flows from spiritual intelligence. Michael trained you with whispers so you'd recognize divine instruction in the middle of chaos. You're not fragile anymore. You're not impressionable. The same things that used to confuse or derail you now pass right through your discernment. You've been rewired in the spirit. That's what July 1st did. It shifted your frequency. You've tuned out the noise and locked into divine rhythm. Don't expect others to understand. Don't even try to explain it. It's not for them. It's for you. Because what's coming next requires a clean signal, and heaven will not speak to those who remain cluttered. Be alert. With this level of clarity comes new assignments. You may feel heaven calling you to speak to people you once avoided. You'll be nudged to intercede at strange hours. You'll be pulled away from crowds and into solitude, not because you're being punished, but because you're being prepared. Watchmen are not built in applause. They are forged in stillness. This is your stillness season. Not stagnation. Stillness. So you can hear what others miss and move when others freeze. And with that stillness comes wisdom. You'll start making decisions without second guessing. You'll no longer ask 10 people for confirmation. You'll know. Not in your mind, but in your spirit. That knowing is the fruit of your obedience. It was earned in tears, in silence, in moments where you almost gave up. July 1st was your proving ground. You didn't just cross a date. You crossed a threshold into unshakable spiritual authority. You walk differently now, and darkness knows it. There will be resistance, of course. Every level of clarity comes with a new level of spiritual jealousy. People will question your peace. They'll mislabel your silence. They'll say you've changed, and you have. That's the point. You're no longer a prisoner of their expectations. You answer to a higher realm now, and heaven doesn't consult man before it elevates someone it trusts. You were trusted with warning. You were trusted with obedience. Now, you're trusted with influence. But this influence must be guarded. You are not called to fix everyone. You are called to be available to the voice of God. Don't let guilt trick you into returning to environments that no longer fit your mantle. You are not abandoning people. You are obeying God. And when God separates you, it's never without strategy. Some will find their deliverance because you left. Some seeds are only planted through absence, not presence. You'll begin to speak less and watch more. Not because you're quiet, but because your words now carry weight. You've entered the realm where your declarations move things in the spirit. You're not making noise, you're issuing commands. This level of alignment means you no longer have time to debate. You discern. You move. You obey. You protect. That's the rhythm of those who are trusted by angels. It's the posture of those who were shaped by a sword and sealed by a whisper. So hear this now. What July 1st revealed was not just your strength, it revealed your stability. You didn't crumble. You didn't go back. You didn't retreat. You obeyed. You cut. You endured. And now you carry a language that few will understand. That's okay. Michael understands. Heaven sees. And the reward will match the surrender. Type I am sealed in obedience to get blessing 4949. Now that you've crossed the line, now that July 1st has shifted your atmosphere, you may still feel the aftershocks of the battle. Obedience doesn't erase resistance. It reveals its purpose. You see clear now, but don't be surprised when the enemy tries to test what you've been trusted with. This is the pattern of spiritual promotion. Right after revelation comes confrontation. Not because you're weak, but because you're ready. And the blessing isn't the absence of battle, it's the ability to stand within it, untouched and unbothered. There is blessing hidden in this battle. You may not recognize it at first. It won't always look like open doors or sudden miracles. Sometimes it looks like peace in the middle of a storm. Sometimes it feels like clarity in the midst of confusion. You'll realize you're not fighting the way you used to. You're not reacting, overthinking, or spiraling. You're rooted. That's how you'll know the blessing has begun. Because Michael's whispers didn't just warn you, they armed you. That armor is invisible but undeniable. You've grown calloused in the right places. Your spirit no longer bleeds at every criticism. Your heart doesn't break at every rejection. You're fortified. You've been trained in silence. You've walked through fire and didn't scream. And now you carry weight in the unseen realm. And every battle that arises post-July 1st will bow to the God who refined you through it. You no longer pray to avoid the storm. You command peace inside it. Understand this. Not everyone sees your shift. And not everyone should. There are people who benefited from your confusion. There are spirits that feasted on your insecurity. Those days are over. Because now, you walk with heaven's codes etched into your soul. The enemy recognizes you before you speak. Your prayers are heavier now. Your presence is sharper. Your joy is no longer based on approval. It's anchored in assignment. That's what makes you unshakable. The blessing also comes in surprising forms. Unexpected rest, quiet confidence, new relationships that feel divine, opportunities that locate you without your chasing. These are confirmations, not bribes. God is showing you. You passed the test. You obeyed when it cost you. And now I can trust you with more. Don't idolize the blessing, but steward it. Because blessing isn't about luxury. It's about responsibility to reflect heaven on earth. You may feel like you're still recovering. That's okay. Healing doesn't disqualify your authority. It enhances it. You are not limping. You're walking wiser. Every scar is proof that the sword did its work. And now, as you move forward, you'll see yourself returning to old places with new power. The same rooms where you once felt small will now feel too small for you. Not because of ego, but because your spirit has grown too large to stay hidden. The battles ahead are real, but you are not alone. Michael still walks with you, not whispering now, but confirming your steps. Don't panic when the testing returns. Let it reveal your transformation. July 1st wasn't the end of something. It was the commissioning. You were activated. You were certified in the Spirit. And heaven doesn't commission what it cannot cover. You are covered. You are watched. You are guided. And every blessing ahead is wrapped in heaven's protection. Stay grounded. Don't get distracted by applause or by attack. Both are designed to shake your focus. Stay aligned with heaven's voice. Stay rooted in obedience. The storm may come, but now you know how to stand. You're no longer easily shaken. You're no longer begging for signs. You are the sign. To your family, to your circle, to your generation. You've become the living evidence of what happens when someone finally listens to the whisper and moves when others hesitate. Your obedience has released a new season. The sword has done its work. The battle has forged your edge. And now, you carry blessing not just in your hands, but in your being. Don't question the shift. Don't doubt the favor. Don't explain the acceleration. Just walk in it. Boldly. Quietly. Apologetically. You didn't survive the storm just to tell the story. You survived it to demonstrate heaven's victory. Type I carry the blessing to get blessing 5858. This is it. The final breath of the warning. The last word of the whisper. July 1st has come, and you didn't miss it. You answered it. You didn't scroll past the signal. You didn't silence the sound. You obeyed. You released. You realigned. And because of that, something irreversible has now taken place in your life. A line has been drawn. A seal has been set. Heaven has recorded your obedience, and the shift is now sealed in the Spirit. You are no longer the same. Even if your surroundings look familiar, you are not who you were. The confusion is over. The delay has ended. The fog has lifted. And in its place, divine confirmation, steady discernment, elevated peace. What tried to break you only sharpened you. What once had access to your vulnerability has now been denied. What heaven closes, no man can reopen. What heaven seals, no voice can undo. Michael no longer whispers. He stands beside you now, sword lowered, not because the war is over, but because you've been authorized to fight differently. No longer reactive, now strategic. No longer afraid. No, established. July 1st was not just a date. It was your divine marking. You are heaven's evidence. The living proof of what surrender birds, of what obedience unlocks. Now go forward, not just grateful, but governing. Protect your peace. Guard your clarity. Don't compromise what you bled to break into. You were trusted with a warning. You were tested by the silence. You were transformed by the sword. And now, you are ready for what's next. Heaven is watching. Michael is standing. And your name is written on a scroll that says, obedient, ready, set apart. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type "It is done." I'm sealed to receive blessing 7171.